Hi, and welcome to Australia's first Let's Talk Tiny Houses podcast. My name is Christine, and ever since laying eyes on my first tiny house, I wanted to know more about the movement, the lifestyle, the communities, and most of all, how I can go tiny. While on my tiny journey, gathering information and meeting amazing like-minded people, I started thinking, apart from my business, how could I contribute back to the movement? Then I was introduced to podcasting, and that was my light bulb moment. I'm so thrilled that through this podcast, I am able to bring you an amazing cast of co-hosts who all bring their own unique skills, knowledge, and advice to each episode. All of us are extremely passionate about the tiny house movement and want to share our experience, expertise, and enthusiasm with our listeners. Each week, we will bring you a special guest interview or particular hot topic discussion that relates to tiny living for your listening pleasure. Okay, let's jump in and find out who we have with us this week. So just that 2-week pilot, you changed people's lives, and one of your volunteers mentioned the story of the young man who, because he got a good night's sleep, he then went on to pop himself into rehab.
That's right. You know, I don't know what I was expecting from the pilot. I just wanted to get it up and running and provide this safe space for people to get a good night's sleep. That was my main goal, to just get it running.
Just start.
Yeah, just to start it, because it took so long, and going through that red tape, I was thinking, well, every day that's a delay is a day I've missed to try and help someone. So just to physically get it off the ground, literally, was incredible. But for me, before we talk about that particular example, a few days in, one of our guests came up to me with probably the most profound statement that I heard throughout the 2 weeks, which was, he came up to me and went, "Norm, that's the first time I've had a dream in years," which I wasn't expecting to hear. And it took me so left field that I choked up straight away when I heard that, and I had to take myself off into a corner to compose myself. But once I've done that and reflected on that, I thought, well, of course, because people that are sleeping rough, they don't get into a situation where they're in a deep sleep because they're sleeping with the proverbial one eye open in fear of being attacked or having their belongings stolen, or they're being constantly moved on. So they're not getting into a deep sleep. So to hear that was amazing. And it took me so left field. I was like, wow, that's incredible. But then from there, like you mentioned, we had a male guest that after a consistent period of a great night's sleep, he had the clarity of mind to book himself into rehabilitation for 6 months, wanting to get his life back on track. A female guest, because she was being able to sleep at night, was able to get a job in the day. And she was saying, "Norm, can you wake us up at 4:30 so I can start getting ready for work?" I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then on the last night, honestly, it was the Kleenex were everywhere, because we had people coming down and hugging us and saying how we changed their life. They'd been off drugs for a certain period of time while they were staying with us. They didn't, what you've got to try and understand is being thrown into an environment as harsh as trying to live outside and trying to sleep on concrete or on a bench or in a park or under a bridge and living with that fear of being attacked or having your belongings stolen, and acquiring a superpower of invisibility because no one sees you. That after a period of time, and sleep deprivation is a massive issue, by the way, for people that sleep rough, because it affects both physical and mental health. After a period of time, you get to a point where it's like, I need something that's going to give me comfort. And what's that going to be? And I concluded it's probably one of three things. You come to a fork in the road and you go, which way am I going to go? Is it going to be to the bottom of a bottle? Is it going to be to another substance? Or is it going to be a darker path? Which we probably don't want to talk about. So I understand it, that why people look to get some sort of comfort. And I empathise with it, because part of my journey was to go out onto the streets of Brisbane and try and sleep rough, which I didn't. So I could see the issue and see the gap. So to hear that was amazing. So the last night, forget it, the Kleenex were out because people were hugging us and kissing us and saying, "You've changed my life, been off drugs." And I'm like, I'm crying and going, wow, this is amazing. But then I'm like, I've got to put these people back out into the street tomorrow. That was really hard. That was really hard.
Yeah.
But in back to the expectations, it just blew the expectations out of the water because this was just 2 weeks. I know this is going to have a massive impact on people's lives moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm working hard to do now.
That's it. That's what I was going to ask. So you've made a difference, but what's next? Do you need a hand? How can people help?
Honestly, I mean, I've been watching over the last few months as Australia's been gripped and terrorised and being decimated by the bushfires, and seeing people's generosity in Australia's time of need. And I wish I had Celeste Barber in my fundraising team, I tell you, because she's done an amazing job, and it's been amazing to see how Australians have come to the aid of one another. It always surprises me. And we saw it here in 2011 when we had the floods and how people came together as a community to help out. But ultimately, for me with Beddown, we're a small charitable organisation. We need the funding to bring Brisbane back. We've got a very exciting prospect in Sydney at the moment with looking to do a pilot down there for youth aged 18 to 25. So spending a lot of time in Sydney. I think Sydney will become an important hub for Beddown, full stop, because I think there's a lot of corporate funding, philanthropic funding and high net worth individuals there that will help to power Beddown into the future. But ultimately at the moment it's all about fundraising, and it's been very difficult around the bushfires, I might say. But it is what it is, and look, rightfully so, the attention's there and it needs to be there. But for us, for a small charity to make that impact on people's lives, we do need the funding.
Yes.
And I'm working hard on that at the moment.
Yeah, and you're overwhelmed with volunteers. Apparently you've got a long waiting list.
Volunteers is very interesting because we were just sort of saying about the reality was I didn't have enough volunteers for the pilot, and going into the pilot I had 100 volunteers on a waiting list. Channel 7 have been amazing, and I've never experienced anything going viral in my life until going through this process with Beddown, because we had the first story air, it's nearly a year, March the 9th last year, but the first story aired, and I originally thought, if I get a little bit of exposure locally, that people see what I'm looking to do, if I get 1,000 views on the Channel 7 Facebook page, I'll be super happy with that. That went into millions of views and all the rest of it, and I was like, far out. It just seemed to resonate with so many people, and I've got the validation around Australia. So when Channel 7 came in to do the follow-up story during the pilot, and I'm thinking, well, is it going to get anywhere near that first story now? Because we've set the benchmark with that first story. That went to another level. But as a result of that, my volunteer waiting list went from 100 to where we're up to probably nearly just shy of 2,000 at the moment across Australia.
Wow.
And there's a big concentration of people here in the Brisbane region. So we've got lots of people out there wanting to help.
Yeah.
At the moment, you don't want to get lots of volunteers on board, because the next thing is when can we get in and start helping people? And at the moment I can't say, well, it's going to be next week or next month or when it's going to be. So hence it all then comes back to raising the funding so we can start operating. But yeah, we've got a load of people that want to volunteer for Beddown, which is incredibly humbling.
Yeah. So if people were wanting to donate towards Beddown, would they just pop onto your website?
That's right, yeah. We've got links to donate there.
Yes.
And we're a fully registered charity, so people can get the receipt of anything over $2 donated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that a tough process, getting the charity status? Not
Well,
for
that
profit
was-
is one level, but
Yeah,
charities
that was all
help.
part of the process last year as well, is like going through all this red tape, and then behind the scenes there I had a great lawyers called Denton's Lawyers that helped in kind. They helped pro bono and in kind to help us get registered as a charitable organisation. That probably took, because we had to incorporate as a not-for-profit first, then before we applied for. That was a crazy week, actually. I mean, I'll talk about that. That was a
Sorry to bring that
massive
back
week.
to you.
No,
You
'cause
can see it clicking over in your head
No,
now.
it was an amazing week. But that whole process probably took a few months. And that's the benefit of having
I've
someone
heard some
that goes
people,
in that
it
space.
takes years. So to do it in 2
Right,
months,
yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, but we had a crazy week where we got the planning approval. We'd already been incorporated as a not-for-profit, and then we registered to become a charity on a Wednesday. And I'm thinking, bureaucracy, this is going to take a while. Within 24 hours, we got our charity status back from the ACNC. I was like, far out, that's great. So by the Thursday, we were a registered charity. Then on the Friday, the last part of the puzzle dropped in. We got the planning approval. The building code and compliance approval. So that was all three
That's
things
a
that
huge
happened in
week.
quick succession. I was like, wow, okay. Now we need to start training volunteers because this is it.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was an amazing week.
So you have a training program for your volunteers, or
Well,
a little workshop that they go?
Yeah, it's what we call a volunteer orientation session. So it's like a 2-3 hour sort of workshop about Beddown, our values, our core values, and what we're about, and so on and so on. What people should expect on a shift, and so on and so forth. So it takes about 2 or 3 hours to go through, depending on the conversation and such.
Is there one service that you would love to be able to provide, but you're either haven't had the volunteers or not able to?
I'm always looking at ways of adding extra value, and we've had a few people reach out. So not long after the pilot had finished, I met a guy on the Gold Coast, and once we get Brisbane up and running, I'll bring him in. He's a personal trainer. So he reached out to me, and he's not a personal trainer. I'd love to get involved with Beddown. And on the way to that meeting, I'm thinking, you start visualising what something's going to look like. I'm thinking, how's this going to look? He's going to have like weights and things set up in this car park, and people are going to be doing like a boot camp and stuff at night time. But it wasn't until and it was totally different when I got to meet him. He was like, well, no, I want to approach it from like a physio perspective, because people are on their feet all day and they might have something. I was like, wow. I already thought about 5 people straight away that he'd be able to help with, like, you know, helping with muscles and muscle pains and back. So I was like, right, he's in. And recently I've had people reaching out about things like aromatherapy, you know, mindfulness.
Yes.
So yoga and ways of meditation and things of calming the mind before trying to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I'll try anything to see if it adds value, but that sort of thing I can see potentially working with aromatherapies to help calm people's, you know, if they're anxious and stuff, and get them into a nice sort of relaxing before they go to bed.
Exactly.
And sleep. I mean, and this was one of the things I was laughing often throughout the pilot, was being in a car park and people get into such a deep sleep that they're snoring their heads off, and you've got like this orchestra of people snoring. It like literally sounded like V8 supercars running around this blooming car park. It was incredible to listen to. It was so heartwarming to hear that people were getting into such deep sleeps.
They were in such a safe and trusted environment
exactly.
that they didn't need to be worrying about anything.
And they knew if they looked up or whatever before that they could see that we were there, and they were, you know, watching over them.
All these
like
people,
the guardian angels for a night, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's gorgeous.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's just so amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So our main listenership is actually in America.
For real?
For real?
Wow.
For real. For reals. And then Australia.
Hi, America.
Hi, America, indeed. So I know I've seen lots of initiatives over the years, because tiny houses are much further along in their following and their evolution. Yes, that's a great word. Yes, so there were people who were using tiny houses or micro houses for addressing homelessness, and one that always sticks in my mind is this gentleman, I'm pretty sure it was in California. He took it upon himself to start building these micro houses on trailers and taking them out and giving them to homeless people, and it provided them with an address. And there was one story where a woman was able to get her children back because they were taken from her because she didn't have an address.
Yeah.
So there could be more to the story, and 100% of the details. That is what I remember. I'm like, he has given someone an address, a safety spot, and now she can reunite with her children and, you know, work towards improving all their lives. It's amazing.
And it's a massive issue here when you haven't got an address. So if you're applying for a job or you're trying to get benefits and all this sort of thing, it's very difficult if you haven't got an address. So yeah, I can see the benefit in tiny homes, tiny houses, micro homes.
Yeah.
Moving forward. And for me, you know, the big part of the model is to get people into longer term solutions. And one of them is obviously accommodation. And there's this whole conversation about housing first and affordable accommodation for people. But, you know, in Australia we got people that have got jobs. We got couples that can't afford to buy a home, so they're not able to afford a house. So how's someone literally on the street going to be able to get into an affordable house? So there's many barriers to overcome, but I think the tiny home thing is extremely interesting to me.
Yes.
In terms of what that looks like in the future.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And we know that you've been recognised recently.
You are a stalker. I'm getting worried. I'm either going to give you the number one fan badge or something like that.
Oh, a badge. I love badges.
DM.
But no, it's like, dun, 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 Inspector Gadget.
I love that show.
I love that show too. So I'm like an inspector. Detective. Yeah.
Go Gadget on.
Yes. So would you like to let us know about the award that you won recently?
Yeah, so that came totally left field again. Part of the journey that really, there's been many things that surprised me along the way, and you things that you think, how does this happen? And an organisation called Supreme Master Ching Hai, hopefully I've said that, I'm sorry, apologise if I've got that messed up, Supreme Master Ching Hai. Organisation based out of Taiwan. Started very much, we were just talking about mindfulness and meditation. Started as a spiritual meditation group many years ago, and then sort of grew into a very successful lines of business, from jewelry to books to a vegan chain of restaurants called The Loving Hut, which they're all over the world, and they have them here in Australia, in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne.
To look out for that.
Literally, I had an email one Saturday night, and it came in the middle of the night. And honestly, when my first pass of it was, this sounds like a scam. Remember them old Nigerian emails you used to get? Please give us your bank account details and all this sort of stuff. And it was very nicely worded, but it was like bank account details and so on and so forth. And then there was a few attachments, like letters and things. And when I started reading these attachments, it went into a lot of detail of how I came about with Beddown. So they're like yourself, done a lot of research.
As well.
And I thought, wow, okay, maybe there's more to this than meets the eye. So I thought, well, I'm just going to send it round the board of Beddown. So there's 5 people on the board. So I said, hey folks, what do you think to this? And they all read it and came to the same conclusion, that it looked above board. But I didn't want to just dive straight in. I was like, thank you for this. This is amazing. I'd love to meet you face to face. So we arranged to go in and meet the organisation. They've got a Mount Gravatt restaurant. Please, listeners in Australia and Brisbane, if you're in that region, go and check them out.
Yeah, Paddy might take you to dinner.
Yeah, I'm out.
So I went in there, met Alan Binu. Hopefully I pronounced his name right as well. He runs that restaurant, and sure enough, above board, they're all about love and compassion, and looking for organisations around the world that are spreading love and compassion. And our model is very much based on compassion, empathy, and obviously love. And they've come across us, and they wanted to recognise us with the Shining World Compassion Award, which come with a donation as well, hence the bank account details that they want. And I went along last week to collect this beautifully heart-shaped crystal award and a lovely framed letter. Yeah, amazing. It's almost like that saying, don't judge a book by its cover. And it was just the way it come through, and it's like, double take, is this for real? But it was. It was so we got this international recognition from Taiwan.
Amazing.
Yeah, Shining World Compassion Award.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I couldn't believe it. I'm still trying to wow, did that happen? Did that really happen?
Did your wife Leslie go with you?
No, she was working at the time. She's in a full-time work during the day. So I had Natalie Raymond, who's on the board of Beddown. It was one of those very first conversations that I had. So she's joined us on the board of Beddown. She joined me.
Oh, yeah. How lovely.
So that was amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And last week, actually, when I first emailed you, so Norm, I had a moment, like you had a moment, emailing Peter, because I was like, I'd been saying to Patty, I want to interview Norm. And so this one night I'm going through and getting myself all sorted, going through my list, and I'm like, I'm going to email Norm tonight. Oh, I hope he messaged me back. And you messaged me back straight away, and I was like, Patty!
No, any opportunity. I've done a few podcasts actually, and you were talking about America. I actually done one in Oklahoma.
Oh, cool.
Before Christmas. I've had lots of interest.
What was the name of that one?
From the US. Getting real with it.
Getting real with it.
Getting real with it.
Oh, with it. Oh.
There's a way that they obviously say it, but I can send you the details to that podcast.
Oh, thank you.
So I've done a few podcasts. I love doing podcasts and talking about Beddown and having the opportunity to spread awareness. So, as I say, I'm really appreciative that you would want me to come on your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Oh, we both got it.
I'm grateful.
Oh, we appreciate that, Norm. Thank you. So last week you were in Sydney and you were at the Funding Network Australia and learning about making a pitch. That's
right. So the whole process, how the Sydney opportunities come about, was just before Christmas. There's an charitable organisation called the Funding Network, and what they organise events, and they're live crowdfunding events. And there's one in March coming up. Mm-hmm. And just before Christmas, I applied to be part of that. And then I got told I've been shortlisted down to one of 7 organisations and got through to the next stage, which was a panel interview with 9 people. And I somehow managed to get through that as well. And I've been chosen as one of the 3 organisations to pitch on the night on the 5th of March, which is around youth, 18 to 25. And that's how this pilot's going to come about, because on the night we'll raise an amount of money. We're going to wait and see what that looks like. But that will go towards the Sydney pilot. But part of the process is you go through a pitch coaching workshop, and they tell you how to pitch, because you've only got 6 minutes, and I've got to condense a story that I can talk for hours and hours on.
We're up to 46 minutes.
Wow.
So
okay, already. And I've got to condense that down into a 6-minute pitch. So that was an amazing workshop. Rob Irving is an amazing guy, and he took us through a great workshop. 3 organisations that were there. Beddown, Making Tracks and Creating Chances are the 2 organisations.
Oh, brilliant.
They do amazing stuff as well. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it would have been a really great table to sit around with all those ideas and great friendships you've made probably for the future.
That's it. And, one of the things was I had to take a pitch coaching buddy with me to sort of bounce ideas off, and guess who? My right-hand man was there, Peter Anson, the CEO of Secure Parking.
Awesome.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, he is amazing because, he just from what I've seen when he's done short little captions in the interviews, what you've told us, he sounds very down to earth and just like, awesome.
Doesn't seem like he's one of these big moguls at the top of companies.
I can see a great idea and totally.
That's it. He was on board very, very quickly. And it's like I say, parts of this journey, things just sort of drop into place. And I don't know if parts of it, my dad's been looking down at me, or the planets have just aligned. It's just all come together. It's been very challenging. It's been very, very challenging. I've got to give my wife a shout out, Leslie, my wife, because without her, I wouldn't have been able to pursue this, because we went from 2 salaries down to 1 salary. And she's had my back all the way through. She's been so supportive, loving, and had my back all the way through. I can't thank her enough. Aww. She's been amazing.
Another superhero in our midst.
Yeah.
She is.
That's brilliant.
She has been amazing.
Yeah. And, I love little love
Christine
stories.
Being speechless.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
So, yes, well done, Leslie.
Yeah.
So good.
I love you, babe. You're amazing.
Oh. If we're, for this year, I know we don't have a date of when Beddown will start up again for Brisbane. What are some things that you'd like to let us in on?
No. So this year, I think the journey will continue. I'm very much a believer in the law of attraction. I've seen it too much. So putting out the good vibes there, and I think it will all come back. So the main priority for this year is to get Sydney up and running and Brisbane back. So the 2 sites. So first and foremost.
Yes. So we need people jumping on the website, donating.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Yes.
Look, I think we've worked it out, give or take, that $100 will help provide safety, security, shelter, sleep and services for 3 people a night.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's a good investment, really, isn't it?
It's brilliant. Yeah. Oh, well, Norm, thank you so much for giving us your time today and all this knowledge and that we're sharing with our listeners. And it's just really lovely. Is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to pop in?
Thank you for the opportunity to come in and let me talk for most of it. My apologies. I did warn you before that.
No.
I think you had the opportunity
fascinating.
to add a few questions in there. And thanks for spreading the word about Beddown through your networks. That's amazing. But yeah, we're on obviously all the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I'm not sure if you post any links to any of those.
Yes, we will. We'll pop them on our show notes.
That'd be amazing.
In our other sharings.
My email, if anyone wants to reach out to me personally, is norm@beddown.org.au. I get a few emails, but if you reach out, I will come back to you. It may take me longer sometimes depending on the volume, but I will come back to you.
Yeah. Oh, well, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again, Norm. And
thank you.
We're going to sign off for now. We'll stay up to date with all the progress of Beddown and yourself. And if ever you wanted to come back on for another chat, we're more than welcome.
Give us an
to have
update.
You.
Yeah. See how this year goes.
I'd love to.
Awesome.
You're doing great work.
Oh, thanks, Norm. Wow, what a great episode. I would like to thank you for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed this week's discussion. I would like to now invite you over to our exclusive Facebook group, where you as our listeners will be able to interact with us, each other, see photos and additional extras that accompany each episode, and be the first to know what we have coming up. If there is a particular topic you would like to hear more about or someone you think we need to interview, please drop us a line at letstalktinyhouses@gmail.com or via our Facebook group. You can find this podcast series on iTunes, Spotify, or your favourite podcast app. And while you're there, please show your love by giving us a rating. Hopefully it's 5 stars. Our show notes will be available on Podbean along with any podcast corrections and amendments. The Let's Talk Tiny Houses podcast is brought to you by myself, Christine Murphy, and my business, OCD, Organising, Cleaning and Decluttering Specialist, which can be found on Facebook or through my website, ocdpro.com.au. I would like to thank all my co-hosts for their amazing contributions and Joanne Helder for editing all our audio and making us sound so fabulous. Until next week, please take care and enjoy yourself.